The organizers looked at the empty seats in disbelief, rubbing their eyes as they tried to understand what had gone wrong. The final of the Berlin Open, a tournament meant to showcase the world's best tennis talent, was being played in front of what felt like a ghost town. The reason traced back to a 21-year-old Filipino wild card who had captured global attention before being eliminated in the semifinals. After her exit, the Filipino diaspora, who had initially filled the stadium and driven ticket sales to unexpected heights, simply vanished. The WTA was stunned. The organizers were scrambling, and the tennis world was forced to recognize the unexpected power of the Filipino fanbase. It was June 14, 2026, at Steffi Graf Stadium in Berlin, Germany. Alexandra Eala, a world number 35 wild card expected to exit early, had instead turned the tournament into her breakout stage. Her journey began quietly with a gritty opening round win over former Wimbledon semi-finalist Donna Vekic, battling back from 0-40 in the final game to secure the victory. It was a performance that hinted at something bigger brewing beneath the surface. Few, however, could have predicted what would follow. In the round of 16, Eala stepped onto court against world number 2 Elena Rybakina, a former Wimbledon champion and one of the most dangerous players on grass. A proven match winner who had already beaten the very best in the world. But Eala did not just rise to the challenge. She overwhelmed it. A stunning 7-5, 6-4 victory sent shockwaves through the tennis world and triggered an immediate eruption online. The Filipino community exploded with pride and disbelief, with social media filling up with reactions as thousands of fans who had never planned to travel suddenly began booking flights to Berlin. While those already in Europe rearranged their schedules to witness her rise, the diaspora had found its champion. One fan captured the moment perfectly, posting, "She just beat the world number 2 on grass. This is not a drill." It was not just a personal breakthrough. It became a defining moment for Southeast Asian tennis, as Eala made history as the first player from the region to reach a WTA 500 semi-final on grass, forcing the tennis world to take serious notice. The quarterfinals brought no relief for her opponents. Eala faced world number 8 Elena Svitolina, a seasoned grass court specialist built for high-pressure stages. Yet the outcome remained the same. A composed 6-3, 6-4 win carried her into the semifinals and secured her a place inside the world's top 30. "I don't think there's any more pressure on me than there is on her," Eala said with calm confidence, the words of a player fully comfortable on the biggest stage. As her run continued, the stadium began to fill. The atmosphere thickened, and the buzz around her growing legacy became impossible to ignore. The Filipino fans who had once been scattered across the stands were now impossible to miss, loud, unified, and fully alive in the moment. They waved national flags, wore their country's colors with pride, and chanted Laban Alex until their voices faded into exhaustion. The organizers took notice, but they still had no idea what was about to unfold. When they checked the ticket sales for the semifinals, they did a double take. The numbers did not add up. More tickets had been sold than the stadium could physically hold. Demand had exploded beyond anything they had ever seen, and the reason was as simple as it was unexpected. Alex Eala, the Filipino diaspora, had mobilized on a global scale. Fans from London, Paris, Rome, Madrid, and beyond descended on Berlin, taking time off work, spending money they could not afford, and traveling hundreds of miles just to witness a 21-year-old Filipino wild card's historic run on grass. The organizers scrambled to respond, reopening sections of the stadium that had been closed for years and bringing in additional security to control the swelling crowds. "It's unlike anything we've ever seen," a tournament spokesperson admitted during a hastily arranged press conference. "The demand for tickets is overwhelming. We're doing everything we can to accommodate everyone." But behind the logistical chaos was a deeper realization from the tennis establishment. They had underestimated the Filipino diaspora. They had underestimated Eala. And they were about to learn a lesson that events like the Australian Open had already begun to understand months earlier. Never put a Filipino star on a small court when the community has decided to show up. That sentiment became reality outside Steffi Graf Stadium, where queues stretched endlessly around the venue. Fans who had traveled from as far as Australia stood in line for hours just for a chance to witness history. They carried flags, wore national colors, and chanted Laban Alex until their voices gave out. Among them was a nurse from London who had taken 3 days off work and flown to Berlin solely to see Eala play. "I've been following her since she was 16. I never thought I'd get to see her live. This is a dream come true," she said, tears streaming down her face. The media quickly picked up on the phenomenon. German newspapers ran front-page headlines about the Filipino invasion, while local broadcasters sent crews to document the scenes outside the stadium. Even the WTA, initially skeptical of the tournament's surge in attention, was forced to acknowledge what was unfolding. But just as quickly as the fans arrived, the momentum shifted. What was supposed to be Eala's crowning moment instead turned into a brutal semi-final reality check. Her opponent, Linda Noskova, the 20-year-old Czech rising star who had already dominated Eala 6-2, 6-0 at Indian Wells earlier in the season, proved to be a nightmare matchup once again. An explosive serve that produced 9 aces and relentless aggression from the baseline allowed Noskova to dictate the rhythm from the very first point. She forced short returns, punished anything loose with authority, and finished with 33 winners throughout the match. Eala, visibly hampered by what appeared to be shoulder and elbow discomfort, struggled to find rhythm on return games as the match slipped further out of reach, turning a story of historic build-up into a harsh and sobering finish under the Berlin lights. The scoreline read 6-2, 6-4 in just 1 hour and 9 minutes. The dream run that had captured the hearts of thousands was over. Eala walked off Steffi Graf Stadium court with her head held high, though the weight of the moment was unmistakable on her face. The 21-year-old had done what no Filipino tennis player had ever accomplished. She had beaten a world number 2. She had beaten a world number 8. She had reached her first WTA 500 semifinal. She had broken into the world's top 30. And she had earned €57,395 in prize money. But the trophy was not hers. And the final would go on without her. The fans in the stands did not boo. They did not protest. They simply rose to their feet, many with tears in their eyes, and applauded. Then, in a quiet and unusual moment, they began to leave. Not in anger, but in silence. One by one, thousands of Filipino fans filed out of the stadium. They had come from London, Paris, Rome, Madrid, and Australia, taking time off work, spending money they did not have, waiting hours in queues just for a chance to witness history. They had waved flags, worn their country's colors, and chanted Laban Alex until their voices gave out. And now, for them, the tournament felt finished. The final was not theirs anymore. The next day, the organizers were met with disbelief as they looked around the stadium. The Berlin Open final, meant to showcase the pinnacle of women's tennis, was played in front of a half-empty, almost lifeless arena. Jessica Pegula and Linda Noskova battled for the title on a court that was barely a quarter full. A stark contrast to the packed, electric atmosphere of Eala's matches. The same stands that had been overflowing days earlier were now dotted with scattered spectators, the energy gone almost entirely. The WTA was stunned. The organizers were scrambling, and the tennis world was forced to confront what had just happened. What happened here is unprecedented, a tournament official admitted in a post-final interview. We underestimated the impact of Alex's presence. The Filipino community didn't come to Berlin just to watch tennis. They came to watch her. When she was eliminated, many of them felt no reason to stay. The numbers told the story clearly. The semifinals had sold out within hours of Eala's quarterfinal win, while the final, supposed to be the tournament's showcase event, struggled to fill even half its seats. Organizers tried everything: discounted pricing, free tickets for local schools, last-minute promotions. But nothing could replace what had already been lost. The fans had made their statement, not with noise, but with absence. Eala herself, watching from the stands after her defeat, was visibly moved by the scenes around her. She knew she had not played her best in the semi-final, and she accepted it. But the support she had received throughout the tournament was something she would never forget. In a social media post, she simply wrote, "Can't begin to describe all the emotions I've experienced this week. My heart is full. I am forever grateful. Berlin, you're so, so special. Thank you." The words were simple, but they carried the weight of everything that had unfolded. Berlin had given her a defining moment, and she had in return given Berlin a lesson it would not forget. The tennis world was once again forced to repeat something already learned in places like the Australian Open, Dubai, and Rome. Never underestimate the Filipino diaspora. They do not just show up, they arrive in numbers that can shift the atmosphere, the attention, and even the economics of a sport itself. And when their champion falls, they disappear just as quickly as they came. The final went ahead regardless. Pegula handled the occasion with the calm professionalism of a veteran, defeating Noskova in straight sets 6-4, 6-3 to claim her second title of the season. She lifted the trophy and the tournament officially concluded. But the empty seats told a story that no result could erase. Eala had become more than a tennis player. She had become a movement. And the sport was only just beginning to understand what that meant.